What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I actually saw a post over on Reddit that made me start thinking a little bit about how 1047 has been managing Splitgate 2. Of course, there's no right or wrong answer, but I thought this would spark an awesome debate down in the comment section, and obviously I'd love to hear each and every one of you guys' opinions on how this should have been handled, especially moving forward with the future of the overall franchise. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, before we go and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and also a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we pretty much go ahead and post anything that's first-person shooter related or even third-person shooter related. So as I stated, subscribe and hit that bell. And last but not least, we do stream Monday through Saturday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, go link that channel down in the description of this video. Alright, so as I stated, I saw this post by JbowenDaMan or JbowenDaMan. I do, apologize if I mispronounce your name. But they said, would it help or hinder Splitgate 2 to release the factionless system before launch? I personally cannot wait to play the factionless system that was presented in the recent playtests. I really look forward to playing with any gun combination I please, and having 3 perk columns instead of 2, and hopefully have the faction abilities as pickups. I heard roughly 75% of the current players prefer the factionless system over the system with factions. So would it help Splitgate 2 to implement that system before relaunch? The other thing 1047 can do is implement the new system when the game relaunches, and I believe that is the original plan. I just don't know if that would help or hinder the game. That could take months. I'm curious how everyone feels about this. Implement changes that the player base likes over time, and then have a relaunch when everything feels great, or wait with implementing anything until the relaunch and hope for a splash. Now this, overall post right here really sparked a awesome debate in my personal opinion. I wanted to bring it forward to you guys here over on YouTube, and that is the fact: should 1047 go ahead and actually implement a lot of the things that they are testing, especially if, all the content that they're testing is overwhelmingly positively received by the overall community? Or should they keep doing exactly what they're doing and hold off until the relaunch of the overall game, and then go ahead and shove everything into the title all at once? I actually hear and see a lot of individuals, questioning if they should even bother hopping into the overall Splitgate 2 experience because of the lack of people who are actually in the experience. And I'll tell you right here, right now, the only reason so many people are dropping off right now, and I'm not saying Splitgate 2 is going to be like, the next massive thing that's going to pull in millions of players or anything like that. I think Splitgate 2, as I stated 1,000 times before, is always going to boil down to a more niche community. But the biggest reason why a lot of players aren't really here right now is because they don't really see a reason to be here right now. As we all already know, the devs said they're going back into beta form, and they're going to be just hosting a lot of different tests to see the direction that they want to push with Splitgate 2. Meaning that, right now, if you're going to go ahead and play the base game, you just got to kind of expect no content updates. You're not going to be getting any new maps, weapons, no new updates to the overall performance of the game, and anything that's going to be rearranged. It's going to be dry. And a lot of individuals don't really see a reason to hop back into the experience until that content flow and also update flow resumes. And I think that's one of the points that's being made there in the Reddit post, is that I feel like the player count would have been able to stick to a more decent number if they would have kept incorporating stuff that they are currently testing. For example, again, the factions. Removing them from the overall game has been, received very well. So, just like the, OP said in the Reddit post, why not go ahead and implement that earlier, right? And give people a reason to hop back into the game, and give people a reason to, want to go ahead and try things, I guess is the best way I could put it. And also, you got to remember that console players haven't been able to try out many of the play tests. And I don't know if that's going to change towards the future, but if you go ahead and implement it into the beta form of the game, then console players can go ahead and try it out and, give it a fair shake. So I guess the question, I wanted to ask you guys is, do you think that it would have been better handled if they, basically everything that they tested out in all these play tests, again, the additional portal walls, removing factions, upping the time to kill, the stuff that we tried in the previous open play test, would it be better if that stuff was just, added into the core experience and they test there instead? So instead of having closed playtest sessions, where it's basically like, mostly PC players who get to try it out, would it be better if they just went ahead and, handled the Splitgate 2 beta, the main game, and incorporated all that stuff into there, and constantly, add, take out, add, take out, add, take out, and don't really handle it as, like an official game, but just more so handle it, like it's in the title, a beta, where they're just testing things out to see what really sticks with the overall community. And again, as I stated before, this would allow console players to actually be able to try out the changes as well, because, I stated it's a closed beta, but it's not a closed beta. Basically, it's open to everybody, but it's only open for PC players playing on Steam, which means console players are missing out, and the only way they can really see any of these changes is one, they go on YouTube and listen to anybody giving their own opinion, or two, watch gameplay on YouTube or streams. But you can't really give a real opinion based off of that. You can only really give a real opinion if you play it yourself. And if they were to incorporate all of this stuff into the base game itself, that would allow players to actually give it a shot and give their real takes and opinions on how everything is being handled. And also, as I stated, there will probably be more players coming into the overall experience as well. And, people wouldn't feel like there's nothing to really return to the game for. Yeah, it's not going to be new content, new battle passes, new maps, and stuff to grind for, but it's still something new, right? If the overall community knew that if they hop back in, they could try out special abilities, that would be something new for them to come back and enjoy. Or they're upping the time to kill like they did in the open test. Again, something new that they can come in and enjoy. It's not a new map or new content, but it's still something fresh for them to engage with. And again, I could definitely see that being a reason for people to return compared to now where there's nothing going on and the only biggest reason to actually play the game is to go ahead and camo grind. Nothing wrong with that. Or, of course, just simply play the game because you enjoy it. But a lot of people, they want to feel and sense the developers being there. And the thing is that the developers are there. They're working constantly on Splitgate 2. But again, it's not going to the base game. It's going to the playtests. And only, again, the PC crowd, at least for now, is able to witness these things. If the devs, showed a little bit more activity with the base game with these changes, I think, as I stated, I know I said it 1,000 times over, but I do genuinely think more people would hop back into the game. But I will say this, at the same time, although I can see where it's a lot of positivity for, players if they were to go ahead and incorporate all this stuff into the base, beta version of the game, I could also see the cons of this. First and foremost, it might be too many people being able to witness what's going on with the playtest. You know what I'm saying? As I stated before, yeah, for a lot of people, they had to look at live streams, gameplay, and hear opinions on YouTube. But sometimes that's the best of the best, right? Same thing with Battlefield Labs. Sometimes you only want to have a select group, not really a select group of individuals, but, you want a sample size of individuals. You don't want thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming in and, giving their opinions, because then it becomes way too much and a little too overwhelming to actually fine-tune and critique what the actual problems are. So if they were to go ahead and incorporate, like, for example, again, no specialist in the base version of the game, instead of having a more sample-sized group giving feedback, they'll be having a lot more players coming in and giving their 2 cents on it, which might kind of skew the results and make it a little bit harder for the devs to fine-tune the overall experience. Also, it will kill the overall consistency of the game as well. There's a lot of players out there who, when they log on to the Splitgate 2 beta still, they want the Splitgate 2 beta experience, right? And if they were going to go ahead and do exactly what I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Splitgate 2 would never be consistent until, the time of the relaunch. There'll be constant things coming in, constant things coming out, and every single time you log into the experience, it's going to be something brand new. And again, not everybody wants to be a part of a testing environment. You know what I'm saying? So, although it would be nice for console players to get a little chance to try out some of the stuff that PC players tried in the open playtest, at the end of the day, it would still kind of be overwhelming to constantly see things, coming in and out. Like, for example, specialists are out for 1 week and then they come back in the next week, and then they're out the next week again and then come back in. And same thing with the time to kill. They have the normal time to kill here and then they change it again a week later and then they change it back. That's going to throw some people for a little bit of a loop. And I'd argue that that might actually do more harm to the overall game itself than, them just being silent with the overall Splitgate 2 beta and then going ahead and holding tests on the side. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the hype factor behind everything here. I personally believe if everybody was able to play with everything they are testing, it would kind of kill the, hype for coming back into the relaunch of the overall game. I don't know, maybe that's just me personally, and maybe people would prefer to be able to play around with everything. But I do believe people are going to be very excited when, the developers actually go back into marketing, getting things, riled up again for the overall game, and then hitting everybody with a relaunch, with everything being shifted around, all the changes that they think are right for the overall game, and the community, obviously going ahead with the open play test, giving it a shot and seeing how things are, everybody coming to a general conclusion on what's best for the overall franchise. I think that will be the ultimate hype, and it will get people really excited to hop back into the game compared to just, sprinkling things here and there and, having people try it out in the base version of the game. Yeah, they might be excited during the moment, but that build-up won't be present anymore, compared to right now, where they've only had an open play test. There's only been a specific amount of people who were able to actually hop into it, at the given time, meaning, not many people are having any hype about it. So that buildup is still happening. That excitement to actually try these features and enjoy all the changes is still accumulating. And that will burst when the game finally launches. And hopefully that burst will be enough to get a lot of players back into the overall scene. But ladies and gentlemen, again, as I stated, I can see both sides of the coin here when it comes to, would it be better for them to implement this stuff now within the base game or hold off, keep doing open tests, and then implement it all at relaunch? But again, the whole point of this video is to see what you guys have to say. I want to know what the community feels about this. What do you guys think is better? Do you think that they should go ahead and, make sure they hold back everything until relaunch? Or do you think they should be splurging a bit more with the base game and allowing more players to actually give a lot of this stuff a try? But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post here daily, actually, 2 times a day. Once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and also a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So, of course, subscribe and hit that bell. And, of course, last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, go link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next one. Peace out.